So initially the 1.4.5 update was supposed to be the Dead Cells crossover and a couple extra things that devs might have wanted to add. As time went on, it just became bigger and bigger, get it, bigger and bolder, including an entire new crossover with Palworld. Palworld's side was added quite a bit ago within their game, but now we're finally able to get and use the Terraria side of this crossover, and I'll be honest, these new items are really good. Like, a bit too good if you ask me. So yeah, in today's episode of the Collector Series, I want to talk about the Palworld collab, do a bit of exploration, and build up 2 new additions to the starting house. If you do end up enjoying this video, why not leave a like, comment, or subscribe for more content. Palworld items. This part was quite all over the place, as the 3 new items I got were obtained from different places and sometimes different times of the day. So let's take it in an order. Cativa is a new summon weapon that can be used in both fighting enemies but also mining blocks. This would be really good to get early because of its decent damage and helping the player mine. Then again, there is another mining pal who is technically even better. The only problem with this one is that it's really rare. It's a 1 in 200 chance of spawning in the outer quarters of the map on grass, snow, jungle grass, so not really in a desert. Try to be in a purity biome or in a snow biome. I tried to get both Cativa and Foxsparks since they spawn the same way, with Foxsparks being 40% of the time and Cativa being 60%, but I only got the PAL to spawn once and it was Cativa instead of Foxsparks. I do want to get the other one since it seems like it will be really useful later with the way it attacks, especially when you use it. Next is Dig Toys. Now this one I feel like is needed in pretty much every single playthrough, especially if you don't like digging down to the underworld. I feel like this is the dev's answer to a lot of people using instant elevators in modded, as the Dig Toys can dig straight down, and as long as there isn't any hard ore or obsidian, it can go down to the underworld in like 10 minutes depending on how big your world is. You can just leave it to do its thing and boom, easy elevator. Even though it is really useful, it is also really hard to get very early on, as it has to be found within the desert underground. A Dig Toys has a chance to replace a larva egg on world creation or whenever larva eggs spawn, which I didn't even know they actually respawn. But it does make some sense, because it has to be a bit renewable. You could just dig around the caves in the desert, but the giant worms will still be an issue for most players, so you could wait until a bit later after you get some items. And actually, now that I think about it, both Cativa and Dig Toys would be really useful in making the tunnels around the evil biome to protect the rest of your world, if that is what you usually do. Faster and, well, automated mining. That sounds pretty sweet. But there's nothing sweeter than a dash with invincibility frames, while also having some really good speed and jump height. I'm talking about the new Chill It mount. I genuinely think this might be the best mount in the game right now, purely because of the dash and speed. Pre-hard mode, I don't think anything beats it, and in hard mode it is possible some of the flying mounts are better, or you might need to use wings in certain fights. The reason I'm saying it might be the best in pre-hard mode is because while the dash from the Shield of Cthulhu is good, it stops you when you hit an enemy and gives you a bit of knockback. Meanwhile, the Chill It dash actually goes through the enemy. There's no knockback, you just go through the enemy while being invincible. If you don't believe me how good this is, then just watch this Eye of Cthulhu fight as, well, it decided to randomly spawn. Usually I want some decent ranged weapon, a multi-platform arena, and boots plus double jump. Here I only had the mount and double jump, even though double jump wasn't really a necessity here, with a frostblade that, to be honest, wasn't even needed. You can just defeat it with the dash from Chill It and that's it. And this is in master mode. Now I truly understand why a lot of people love to use those dashes with invincibility frames from Calamity. What was normally a pretty intense fight, because, you know, master mode, was trivialized by the ability to not take damage. I think I'll be using this guy until quite late in the game. If not for the combat capabilities, then at least for the speed at which you can traverse the world. How do you get this overpowered little guy? Well, randomly in the underground you can find a dragon egg, and from that dragon egg you can get the blue or red Chill It. The wiki mentions that the eggs might spawn more often near glowing mushroom biomes, but it is not clear if that's the case. It could be because of the increased number of treasure spawns within those biomes and the chilled egg spawning with similar conditions to golden chests or life crystals. Because those appear a lot more often in glowing mushroom biomes, so would the chilled egg appear more often there. For exploration itself, I didn't get to do too much, but at least I got myself full health for pre-hard mode, which is really nice to not get one-shot by boulders anymore, unless I'm at low health, of course. The dig toys doing my elevator was really good for this, as while I was looking for the Cativa, it was digging lower and lower and uncovering a lot of caves and minecart tracks, which led me to a lot of loot. Nothing too important other than a chilled egg. I can't believe it I got it so quickly. The desert exploration didn't yield anything cool either. I got the dig toys there and that was kinda it. Honestly, I'm really glad I didn't have to spend much more time within that biome. I also got myself a full set of silver armor from the ores I got during my exploration, which helps a lot with the defense. As for building, I went ahead and did what I was planning with a small greenhouse to the right of the house and a shed to the left. Neither are fully complete, and to be honest, no build will be for quite a while, as I have to find other materials I know I need or I might just get inspired by to make some changes. Again, I want this world to not only be like a forever world, but to also help me get better at building within this game. So while these builds might not be the best, I do hope to make them better as time goes on. The greenhouse, I usually do this build in most of my playthroughs where I need potions. Any master mode or co-op ones, as usually export mode playthroughs, I just wing it and use whatever potions I have on hand. This is one of the builds that will have a proper use, as I will be planting potion ingredients and will also make and store most of those potions here. I wanted to go for a greenhouse that's also partially natural. The shelves with some normal wooden wall to give it a feeling of supporting the platforms so they don't just float there. Then I used the living wood wall and living leaf wall for the natural aspect of it, and the rest was glass. Some lanterns to actually light up the place during the night. I do want to add some wiring to my builds too, a nighttime and daytime sensors to turn the lanterns on and off. It will be quite cool, because you don't really need the lanterns during daytime. And of course, I am missing the actual planter boxes, but those will be coming after the Dryad moves in. On the other side, I wanted to make a basic looking shed-like build where I can have most of my crafting stations. Now, I do know that having your storage and crafting area in different places is not a good thing anymore, especially now with the ability to craft stuff out of chests without opening them. But I want my place to look cool, and it doesn't have to be practical. So I went with a similar thing and made a shelf with supports using background walls. I used planked wool for the majority of the background to give the build a look of sturdiness. For the walls where the roof is, I went for normal wood with a window and some living wood walls to look like beams holding the roof itself. A couple light sources and moving the crafting stations inside, and I think it looks decent. The main change I want to add is some switches to turn the lights on and off. That's about it for builds. I did want to get the other Palworld salmon in this video, but the Fox Sparks didn't want to spawn. I'll try to get it next time though. I do think that these new crossover items were a really good idea, especially for early game summoner. Speaking of which, I did make one of the new whips after defeating the Eye. With the pals, normal summons, and new whips added, early summoner finally feels like it has a proper progression in the early game. At least some really easy to get early items, as before, every single class had some weapons that could be obtained without too much RNG or defeating any enemies, while the summoner had to rely on Finstaff, which is randomly from chests in giant trees, and so it could just not spawn in your world, or Flink's staff, which leads to you having to kill those enemies without summoning items, leading to pure summoner not being possible. Now that there's some whips like the web whip, which can be crafted using only web and some wood, you can now finally have an early game weapon to do pure summoner. I do think they might nerf the Chillet, even though I do hope not. I think, while it might become the best in slot, to find it early on is quite hard, as you need to explore a lot, and in that time you might have already found what you needed for whatever boss you are about to face. As I said, I only needed to make the arena for the Eye, and most likely I could have won anyway, even without the mount. Still, if not for how useful it is, I still love it for it being cute. That's about it from me. some interesting new items, and a couple new builds. I hope you enjoyed this episode of the Collector Series. I want to thank you guys for watching, and I hope to see you all in the next one.